After 3 weeks in Afghanistan, we joined the crowds at Kabul airport, now the only way out of the country.
There's a huge block here, lots of cars.
Hundreds of people wait in the blistering heat, hoping for a flight out.
So we just managed to get into the airport compound, and I have to say it was pretty intense. It was just like this crush of desperate people and screaming children and women and babies, and yeah, it's not often you really see desperation like that.
The few people that do make it are exhausted and scared, but they're the lucky ones. They've made it past the Taliban checkpoints, Afghan security guards, and finally, the airport gate. But they can't forget those who they left behind.
We're getting out, we're happy for that, but we're heartbroken for our country, especially for those who can't get out, those who are stuck here, and we're really heartbroken. Our heart bleeds for them.
What do you feel for all the mothers with young daughters who will now be growing up under Taliban rule?
Pain, lots of pain.
The back of a pretty long line now. Transportation's under strain, they said, and obviously the priority is getting children and babies out as soon as possible, but I think we'll probably be here quite a while. Do you work for the U.S. military, or?
Not military, but we are working with the Ministry of
Defense in Afghanistan.
But we are also work with the foreign people too.
And so you have visa?
Yeah. Go away.
As we interview this couple, suddenly shouts behind us. A vehicle speeds through.
That's a newborn baby that just flew past in that vehicle. That was a newborn. Did you see the baby? It was this big.
The baby, we find out, has heat stroke and needs treatment. A reminder for these families that they're close to safety, but not there yet. We stand in the blazing hot sun for hours, everyone seeking what shelter they can. Patients wearing thin. It's an agonizingly slow process, but finally we're allowed inside. Out on the tarmac, now safe, but the chaos continues.
I've been waiting for 2 days, yesterday since 3 a.m.
Yesterday since 3 a.m.
Yes.
Tell me what the situation was like trying to get into the airport.
It was really busy and a lot of people were just fighting and trying to make way for themselves, but we pushed through.
We are certainly some of the very lucky ones here. Others, as you heard from that young man, have been waiting for 2 days. Others we saw getting turned around, sent back, told you don't have the appropriate paperwork. And there's no question everybody here is doing their best, but it's not clear if it's fast enough, if enough people can get out, and how much longer they have to finish this massive operation.
I want to bring in CNN's Clarissa Ward. She's on the phone inside the Kabul airport. Clarissa, the Pentagon today put out several images that really get at the humanity, the sea of humanity there, and the compassion of the U.S. service members at the airport. You saw, of course, the Marine holding a baby, another fist bumping a child going through processing, the lines of Marines on guard directing a woman and child where to go for processing. Obviously, everyone doing the best they can, as you noted. The scene inside the perimeter, strikingly different than the one outside the gates.
Yeah, Jake, I mean, there's no question that everybody here is doing their level best to try to mitigate the suffering and misery of this situation. And we also saw, I saw a young female soldier carrying an Afghan toddler boy. I've seen people helping those in wheelchairs, all sorts of acts of kindness and gentleness. But the reality is that this situation is horrifying. And I'm looking around now at a sea of people lying on the floor. They're lying outside on the gravel. There's nowhere for them to sleep, not even a cardboard box. They are cold. It's very chilly. There's no blankets. The bathrooms here are in a very bad state indeed. And there's no sense of how long these people are going to be here, because for over 8 hours today, no U.S. planes even left. So there's now even more of a backlog and a bottleneck than there was, Jake.
Is there any sense of order when it comes to the effort to determine who gets to come into the gates, into that last perimeter where the U.S. is, and who does not?
I think in the initial process, there's so many nodes along this chain. Initially, it's sort of like who can flash a document in the air and who can push the hardest, slash who has a young baby or something like that, or is vulnerable and at immediate risk. Then as you get further along the chain and closer to the airfield, you go through State Department processing, where you really do have to show the appropriate paperwork. And that's where we saw quite a few people being turned around, and they're all sort of manually escorted off the base. And it does break your heart a little bit to see that, because you can imagine, you don't have all your paperwork in order, but you're still petrified of the situation. And to get that far and get in and still not be able to get out of the country after all of that, it's a heartbreak. Jake, I'm walking outside now because I'm being told that our flight might be taking off soon, so forgive me if it's a little loud.
Okay. That's true. It certainly takes priority, Clarissa. We have seen images of armed U.S. forces along the perimeter of the airport, and all week the Pentagon has said that U.S. troops have not been involved in any hostile interactions at the airport. But of course, any wrong move could quickly change the situation, and I have to believe that that's one of the considerations as to why U.S. service members have been basically told to stay where they are within the perimeter, because of the real legitimate risk to service members from not just the Taliban, but any one of the terrorist groups in the area.
I mean, there are so many different threats here and so many different potential scenarios where things could rapidly escalate to a very, very bad place. And that's why there's a lot of tension in the air, because everybody knows that this moment cannot last. It's going to be short-lived, and they've got to get it right, and they've got to get out as many people as they possibly can, because they can't just go outside the wire and start bringing people in manually. The Taliban, and this is why these negotiations with the Taliban are so important, but the Taliban has a limit, right, to how much they will tolerate, and a limit to how much those surly fighters on the outer perimeter will tolerate. And so that's what makes it a potentially very dangerous situation. It's like a powder keg. One thing goes wrong, and it all goes very wrong.
Well, Clarissa, I'm so glad that you're getting on a plane to get out. And I just want to say, on behalf of everybody here at CNN and everybody who's been watching CNN, your reporting has been brave and amazing and with empathy and with courage. And we are so lucky to have you as a colleague. Thank you for what you have done to tell the story of what's going on there.
Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you from all of us very much.